Okay. Cool.
Isn't Martin supposed to be joining also?
I'll just see if he RSVP'd. Yes, he's supposed to be. He can, I believe. I think Martin might be in a bit of a difficult time zone. That's from memory.
He's in Europe. He's in the UK.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
too early.
No.
It's 9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock and 9 p.m. for him, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, he hasn't responded. Yes. I think on the doodle he said that this was a bad time for him.
Oh.
So we'll see if he turns up. Maybe he'll turn up in a little while. But Thomas is here for comms team. So
I am.
just get this screen up. There we go. Everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you haven't had a chance to read the minutes, please do. They're attached to the invite. Everybody okay if we take them as read? There's a recording on YouTube as well if you want to have a look at it later.
Yes, fine.
Okay. And just to like to say welcome to Gali, our newest regional rep, who's joining us from Israel, Tel Aviv. So thank you very much for agreeing to the ridiculous hours of these calls and for taking up the work and contacting your clubs and just generally trying to foster running in the region. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me.
Okay, so we've got a Jake Fedorowski, which is who uses they them, joining us in a little while, and Michael's going to I think, is Michael online? Yes, Michael is online. So Michael's arranged that, so he'll be here in another 20 minutes. But before we do that, maybe we want to just get an update from I don't know, Richard, was your Brooks scholarship update going to take more than 20 minutes, or do you want to leave that till after, or do you want to do that?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. So maybe Thomas, you could let us know how communications has been going in the last 3 months since you guys have taken it over. Oh, here's Martin.
Me specifically only?
Well, the comms team is Martin, Buddy, and Thomas. So
Yeah.
I was just going to say you because Buddy's walking and Thomas and Martin wasn't here, but
Martin just joined.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. So from my end on, I can just say that I've been managing the Instagram and getting good traction on just the movement through that, just on that platform alone. Also been connecting it to the Facebook. So all the posts that have gone up have gone to all the posts on Instagram have gone to the Facebook as well. Other than that, nothing really exciting. There's some good suggestions, and it's nice to collaborate across the clubs worldwide. And as well, like we had our first new member in India joining the international front runners as well, and it was nice to kind of promote them there on, and there was some good interactions, so it's more like connecting interpersonally with the clubs through it. I personally like Instagram as a platform the most, probably why I was biased enough to take it. But yeah, other than that, can't say much else.
Yeah, and of course we've had Chiang Mai join us as well. So Buddy's very productive. He's got 2 clubs in the space of 3 months, so that's very well done.
Thank you.
And yeah, we had those. I think somebody popped it up on Twitter as well, and the other social platforms. So that's good. Martin, would you like to give your comms update? What you've been doing for comms? He's searching for the mute button.
Sorry for that, Chris. Yes, so basically, ever since I've started on the communications, it's it's always been like a feeling that we're posting a lot of stuff on Instagram and consequently Facebook, but we're not really posting much on Twitter. So what I've personally tried doing is, although we've sort of said we're not prioritizing Twitter as one of the main platforms, I've sort of tried ensuring that whatever we post or whatever I post comes on Twitter as well. So whether it's just a simple hashtag or whether it's just so it's a lot different to Instagram in terms of like there wasn't many images, so it was usually just a simple post or a hashtag, but just making sure we've got that sort of presence as well, basically. So yeah, that's the update I would give basically. So whether it be Changman, front runners, the latest front runners joining us, or anything else, it's just making sure that we're basically present on all essentially major platforms, basically.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you.
And I know there's a lot of Twitter posts that come from the European clubs. So I don't know whether that's anything to do with you posting things there, but there's a lot of
yes, I usually I usually like a lot of the posts I see on Twitter and then basically just retweet. So then it's basically when they would notice like we've essentially retweeted something, they would basically like the post and basically try and tag us into the post to basically stay on top. So I think, yeah, I think that's part of what's driving out our Twitter traffic as well. So yes.
Cool. Buddy, do you have anything to add for comms?
No, thank you so much. Like I said, I think we are probably there's going to be like, I don't know how to say it. Like basically there is a push. I think a trend that communication style is also going to be evolving. We used to do like say letter mails, and now we have internet. It used to be emails, and I think we're moving forward towards social media that pushes things into people's timeline for better engagement. And yeah, I can't wait for us to maximize the potential of social media as a means of communications. Thank you. Over to you.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Anybody have any questions or suggestions to the comms team? No, all good. Okay. So newsletter then, in the light of what we just said there, do we want to do another newsletter for middle of the year, as we discussed? So we're going to get reports together to compile a similar report that we did for the AGM. How do people feel about that? I mean, I think it was a stopgap because what we used to do was get everybody, all the regional reps in this, to actually do a report, a verbal report, and that could go on for like 2 or 3 hours. So we thought that it'd be more generally useful to do a newsletter instead. Do you think that that is working, or would you rather go back to doing reports in the meeting?
Yes, Chris, if I can just step in, I guess I'm the first one and just say, yes, I think that's definitely working. And one of the things I would say that came from my my first regional meeting, which I've had quite recently, was actually that a lot of the people weren't so, a lot of the clubs weren't so involved with the first newsletter, but there was quite an engagement in terms of the clubs that participated in the meeting in terms of the second one. So I've sort of just politely indicated that, we're sort of having another newsletter, and they seemed quite as if they want to get involved, and like a lot of them had stuff to submit. So they were asking for dates and deadlines. So I said, well, we don't currently have one just yet, but it just seemed like it's an atmosphere where people are willing to submit stuff. So I would quite like to go for the newsletter, especially considering the last one, although, considering my best endeavors and trying to get as many clubs to submit something, we've only had a couple. So it just seems like a lot more clubs from the Europe region are willing to submit something just now. So I would go for the newsletter, basically.
Well, that'll be good. Yes, to get some more balanced reporting from Europe. So should we go ahead and pick a date for when we want the submissions in for the next one? I think maybe in 2 months' time. Is that too long? If we were to say sort of like first week of May, so, or is that too far off? Do you want to make it before Easter?
I was wondering when should we when do we expect to publish the newsletter? So the previous one was published in August, I believe. So like it's been almost 6 months. What are the say the what do you call it, the frequency of newsletter that we are expecting? So say once a year, once every 6 months?
I think we thought once every 6 months was good, that quarterly was too much and that annually was too little. So,
so the previous one
I guess
August.
we kind of want to get somewhere in between. So April, May would probably be a good date. I don't know what other people think.
The publishing would happen in April, you mean, or May?
So I'd say we cut off submissions, say beginning of May, and publish mid-May, like 2 weeks to edit.
We might
And
even want to go a little earlier so that we can hit the Pride celebrations around the world, get them into the newsletter so people have time if they want to travel. I'm thinking we want to get the Pride celebrations in. Some of them start in May, a few even earlier. We want to get the Euro Games into the newsletter. So I think to try to even publish by May 1st might be a good idea, or sometime in very early in May. And as you'll recall, last time it took some time to finagle the newsletter into shape, into printable form.
Well, what do you think we say, like first week of April for the submissions and the publication first week of May?
First week of April submission, and I think if I and Richard can get together, we might be able to finish every if we have every material, it'll take us say for 24 hours of editing, or say 48 hours, or a week to get around to publish it. I think that if we get a lot of people submitting, this thing is going to turn into more than 60 pages. It's going to be quite a lot of proofing, I'd say. Yeah.
Proofing
first of April,
formatting.
Yeah, I'd give yourself a realistic time frame. I'd say
1st of April is good, and we'll have a little bit of overlap there because people always are late. So we'll say 1st of April, but we'll probably take submissions. People, oh, we're sorry we're late. We'll go until April 7th or April 15th. Basically, we can go until shortly before publishing. We did that last time. We were getting submissions right up to the day before.
I agree.
But I think trying to publish in May 1st or early May. Should we call it the May Day edition?
Okay.
Thank you.
That sounds
I love that.
good.
Thank you.
Can I just come in and say something just in
Sure.
terms of, so I was just thinking 2 things. Like last time it seemed that there was a bit of confusion on which platform to actually produce a newsletter on. Are we completely clear on whether we're going to use, what was the platform, that social media planning platform that we use?
Well, I think the difficult problem was, so in terms of editing it, we've always used Google Docs.
Yeah.
But we could always use Teams, because we do have a Teams system. So we could, but then I suppose editing, you're still restricted to the web-based version of the editing on Teams. So Google Docs is probably the easiest one to assemble the content. And then I think after that, because it's all formatted higgledy-piggledy and it's such a big document, if you turn it into a Word document, you end up with something that's far bigger than any social platform will allow you to store. So we ended up having to PDF it, I think. Was that right?
Yes. PDF is, to me, the most transportable platform. Everybody seems to be able to open a PDF, and not everybody has Google.
Yep.
I mean, most people do, but not everybody does. So yeah,
Super.
I would go to PDF on it.
Yeah. And second thing, when we are getting submissions in from the different clubs, I was just thinking, if we get to the point where we are lacking content because people are not sending in or not responding and stuff like that, is it possible we could then kind of say, right, is there an Instagram story or a picture or post that you want highlighted in the newsletter instead?
Well, that's really up to the regional reps to do. So if they want to report something, I think in the past what people like Randy have done, or Richard have actually got stats if they find that there's something important they want to report. So they go and do their own report for that particular club. So there might be something significant that maybe the rep hasn't got back to them. They'll put in something significant about the club themselves. So it's up to the regional rep to do their section. Super,
super. Good to know. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Plus, we've had interviews. Booty's had interviews in past editions, and those are always very popular. The last newsletter, I got a lot of comment from the clubs that I'm connected with saying people read it. People read all, how many, 45 pages, how many pages we had. People read it. I think people like that. They like to see what's happening around the world. And the goal is to make us one big cohesive family rather than a bunch of scattered clubs who don't know each other.
Can I interview you next, Gali? Gali, can I interview you next?
Sorry, what did you ask?
Can I interview you next?
Buddy does a
sure.
reporter at large series where he interviews notable people around the world. So you can you can be our next his next victim.
We fly Booty first class to Israel.
No,
Yeah,
no, I don't get $1,000 reimbursement for that. Sorry.
Well, Chris is using the private plane, so we can't use that for you. Sorry.
No, it's a very small. Only one person
Small
and the
Lear.
staff. Yes. But yeah, okay, well, that's great. So we'll set the date for 1st of April to cut off submissions. So everybody please contact their clubs after this and say we want submissions for the next newsletter that's going to be published on the 1st of May. And I'll get the Google Doc up again and send the link around, or Elaine will send the link around with the notes from the meeting. And yeah, we can get cracking. It'll just be the same template as last time, so everyone's familiar with that. Please try and restrict yourself to 1 or 2 photos for each club. And if you've got 50 photos that come in, try and mosaic them or something into one photo. I know that won't be what the club will want, but otherwise we're going to compile a 1,000-page report every time. It's going to look like a government document at the end of the day. So yeah, brevity is the soul of wit, and try and restrict yourself to a paragraph or 2 for each club rather than pages of stuff. Otherwise, we'll have to edit and we'll have to compress those photos, because there's just, in order to get, I think it's under the 5 meg or gig limit or whatever it is for the, I think 50 gig for some 50 gig for some platforms and 50 meg for other platforms. So in order to get under that limit, we've got to do some savage editing sometimes. Okay, anything else about any other comments from the newsletter? I just also want to say, I think with all the social platforms, it's great that we're doing all this work, but there are a lot of people out there who don't want to be on, they're not on Facebook, not on Insta, not on Twitter. And so having that PDF that you can email around if people are interested is really valuable too, or put in the local distribution. However people get it. Maybe there are people out there getting their news by MailChimp from their local clubs or something. So it's really handy for us to have a PDF copy that they can get an update at least twice a year.
Martin, will you reach out to Eurogames and put together a little piece about Eurogames? Where, when,
Yes, of course.
where?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Perfect.
That'd be
I will
great.
do.
Great.
Can I ask?
Gordon,
Can I make
by
a?
the-
Can I make a request, please?
Yeah.
Can someone from the communications team just sort of reiterate what we just decided about the newsletter in a memo to all of the reps, so we're all clear on what the submission timelines are and the publication
course.
timelines?
Of course, I can do that. Not a problem.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks. I mean, there's been a lot of sort of conversation about it here, and I just want to make sure that I am providing the right dates to my clubs. Thanks.
Chris, speaking of which, did we have on the agenda, speaking of Eurogames, jumping back, did we have on the agenda a discussion about AGM?
Oh, no, I haven't put that on, but we can talk about it. Maybe.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up. Yep.
Yeah, and Eurogames might once again be a good venue since we have a critical mass of people. It worked out pretty well last year.
When is that? Again, sorry.
So that's, I believe it's the 26th to the 30th of July.
We decided that last meeting.
We did, it's in the minutes.
Exactly. Read them.
Great.
Oops.
You have a much better memory than us.
Somebody's got caught.
But we still should discuss, what our
content.
plans are to have the meeting there. So
Yep.
I think Xander and I will plan on going again.
I think we'd all like to go if we can. We'll see what happens with, well, maybe we're out of the woods with COVID. We'll see.
Well, we might be at war.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah, Holland's always jumping to every war. It really sucks.
I was actually surprised Australia's only got one war on at the moment. We've previously, in previous times, we've had 3 simultaneously. So we've
overachievers.
We're slackened. We must invade somewhere.
Maybe Fiji.
Oh no, I don't think so.
Invaders.
Well, we already do whenever we're allowed to go there for a holiday. Okay, sorry, my dog is trying to distract me. Yeah, so you reckon it's 2 minutes, or do you want to wait until after Jake joins us for the Brooks Scholarship update?
No, I can do it really quick. So first off, as you know, we have the New Brooks Initiative, the Pride Initiative, which she basically just, she had been kind of discussing, Raisa. Oh, and by the way, we have a new person at Brooks, Raisa, who replaced Brian. She's new to Brooks. She came from Nike. So she's kind of running by the seat of her pants. It's a little bit going as we go. She's making things up. So for example, she initially had me send out the 25% discount to the whole world. But then I got an email from Devane in Singapore, and he said they can't access it. And I went back to her, and she checked, and oh, I'm so sorry. It actually is only available at the moment to the US, but she's working on opening it up to Canada and Europe, and she's going to hopefully open up to the world. Anyway, so she hit me up with this this Pride Initiative where they're going to do a cheer kit, which they still don't know what's going to be in it, but they're working on it. Fun things, fun and festive pride cheer things, and money, and they don't know how much money, and shirts, and they don't know how many shirts. So I had to make the proposal very non-specific. And I'm getting back to clubs. I've had clubs ask me for $13,000, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think they're going to give you $13,000. So I get them to give me alternatives. But right now we have proposals. I'm looking at it right now. We have proposals from Buffalo, United States, from Copenhagen, from Long Beach, United States, from Omaha, United States, from Philadelphia, from Les Run in Philly, from Provincetown, US, from Sydney, and that's it. And then we also right now have about 36 people who have applied to the 25% discount. And many of those are from, particularly from the UK. So I'm hoping she gets that opened up to the UK and to the rest of the world shortly. But I feel like we need, we're a worldwide organization with right now 116 clubs. We really should have more proposals than that. And the cutoff is the March 1st. So we need more proposals. I need more names for the 25% discount.
You'll be getting one. You'll be getting one from Palm Springs this weekend.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was we distributed all the money. The big initiative, the Brooks grant was 100% distributed except for Hong Kong, where we're still sitting on the funds waiting for Wayne or Hong Kong to tell us what to do with them. But everyone else got their money. Everyone was very appreciative. We are going to be asking people shortly to send back what they're doing with the money, get us pictures. Maybe part of the newsletter, maybe the newsletter after that. But Brooks is very interested in partnering with us and our PR people, our communications committee, to get out the word about what the clubs have done with the money.
I have 2 questions for you, Richard. Is the list of recipients of the most recent grants published anywhere? I feel like I got 2 congratulation letters and then no more. So
right.
Is that been published anywhere?
So far, not published. The whole steering committee saw the final report I created that gave the clubs and how much each one got. So you saw that, but nothing has been public yet. And I think that Raisa wants me to come to her first before we go public and just confirm things with her and with her PR department. Okay. So I need to create some kind of strategy. I mentioned to Chris a few weeks ago about adding that to our communications committee's next meeting to discuss that.
Okay, thanks. The other question I had, and this was actually brought to my attention by Ari from Seattle Frontrunners, who is here in Palm Springs this weekend, and he's promoting the 25% discount to his club. Is there a cutoff for that 25% discount also Monday, March 1st?
Yeah, once again, seat of the pants. Initially, she said they could have a rolling 25% discount, but then 2 days ago she changed it and she said they want all the names on March 1st. There's probably some leeway there, March 2nd, March 3rd, but then they won't update the list for another year.
Okay,
So in
that,
fact, all the US clubs should give me their names, and if you don't give me your name by March 1st, then you'll have to wait a year.
okay, I'll need to update my club on that because I didn't publish that as part of my initial.
Yeah, sorry to be so scattered on that, but I'm actually working with, she's very nice, but she is a bit scattered and she's new to the job, so somewhat understandable.
Yeah, no worries, thanks.
And as you say, they're making it up as they go along.
And we appreciate whatever they do.
Yep, it makes a difference, makes a difference.
I'm certainly not going to complain.
So I dressed in Brooks gear head to toe this morning for our for our Saturday run. Literally, I had a shirt that has a big Brooks logo across the chest, hat,
That's
shorts,
great.
shoes, you name it.
That's
And I
great.
did a sort of big promotion for Brooks today at our run.
Thank you,
So
thank you.
it was kind of fun.
It is kind of one of those things where America is a farmhouse in the woods at nighttime and the lights are all on and they can't see that there's anybody else out there. I think when not Raisa, but her predecessor was talking about it and saying you can just go to the online store and do such and such. And I said, well, we can't order anything from Brooks on the online store in Australia. So are you sure about that? And she went, oh, okay. So I think, yeah, your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure everything works in the States, just whatever.
Okay,
Look,
Richard,
Chris, what can you do?
yeah. Sorry for
Richard,
that.
oh,
Yes, Wayne.
Richard, can the merchandise include caps?
She was very specific shirts, but
Okay, no, but if you're doing it another time, can we look at caps? Because remember you did the IFR cap. It'd be fantastic if we all had.
well, I did the IFR cap out of my pocket.
Yeah, I know.
Brooks, you know, I've had clubs ask me about other gear, and I say, put it in your proposal. I'm giving Brooks everything. The club that asked for $13,000, that's going to go to Brooks. What the hell? Give it to them. Let them say, no, that's too much. No, we can't do caps. So if you have a proposal for caps, let's throw it in.
One of their cheer pack thing included a specific kit, which was hat, special shoes, and pride shirt, which were all done in a specific design. And the idea was there would be space for the club to put their particular logo on it as a sort of postfix thing. So you would order the shirts and then print the logo on them somehow. She wasn't clear about how that would work, and it didn't sound very flexible to me. So we'll just have to watch this situation as it evolves. But they certainly do have designs for caps, shoes, and shirts. So we'll just have to see.
She's definitely not as easy to work with as the last group, but she's less experienced. And by the way, India came up with our Bangalore club came up with a design, and they actually contacted Brooks India, independent of us. And Brooks India got very excited about it, and they're going to supply shirts and they're going to pay for the design. But they came back and said they don't like the design, and they made a different design, and the Bangalore club didn't like the design. So the Bangalore club was a little annoyed, and I said, well, go back to them and, you know, respectfully ask that you want your design, not their. And it was slight differences. It wasn't major. I said, but there is, as far as I've heard from Raisa, there are no design requirements. We're in charge of the design. So if we have to, we'll go to Raisa and let Raisa fix it. But apparently they went back to Brooks India, and they gave in. They said, okay, we'll go with your design. So
Yeah, and I think it looks good.
it looks really good. Yeah.
Look, conscious we're cutting in.
Yeah,
Okay,
just one quick point. Yeah, one quick point, Richard, on that. The proposals coming in.
Somebody's laughing. Who's laughing? Where's all the laughing?
It's Booty's race where he's arrived at the front line.
Oh, okay. Congratulations, Booty. Go ahead, Alden.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to mention that when you're considering those proposals coming in from March 1st, just look at our current membership. You mentioned Provincetown, they are not renewed yet for this year. So you might want to use that as leverage, but we can talk about that under.
It's an excellent idea. And in fact, I was already thinking, Rice is very specific that the 25% discount only go to quote unquote paid members. And I haven't said to her, not all clubs have dues. So, you know, a paid member isn't necessarily a paid member everywhere, but telling the club.
It should be a paid member to us. No, I like telling the clubs that next year when it's time to renew the Brooks discount, that the member has to be an active member, is an incentive to get them to become active, whether that means paid or renew. And then I love your approach, the same thing with the proposals. I need to go to Provincetown. We need to get a list and say, yeah, but you're not a member yet. So that's very important. And I think our rules say, I think the Brooks rules say member clubs, or at least when we did the first initiative. So right.
Thank you.
Right.
That's cool. That's great.
I'd suggest we can catch this up in the discussion point later. So we're cutting into Jake's time. Michael, would you like to introduce Jake and the point that we've got here? No, welcome, Jake.
Sure, sorry. So yes, I will introduce Jake, although I've never had the pleasure of meeting Jake in person myself. So, but we've exchanged some emails, and I've certainly been following the activity that Jake is initiating with regards to creating a more inclusive environment for non-binary runners. So Jake is joining us from Seattle Frontrunners, and I should say Seattle Frontrunners is a very active club. I think they are seeing their highest membership numbers ever. I think they've crested 400 members recently. They are undertaking a lot of really significant initiatives this year, coming off of the sort of racial reckoning that happened here in the United States last year. They're doing a lot of outreach to sort of different communities within the Seattle area. They've considered moving their meeting locations to neighborhoods that are more centered, that are less affluent, to try and create awareness and be more inclusive to not just the non-binary community, but to other communities as well. So I do know that for a couple of years, at least, the Seattle Pride Run has had a non-binary gender category for their race. I'm happy to say that Palm Springs Frontrunners, I'll selfishly promote the fact that we will be offering a non-binary gender category in our Pride Run this year for the first time. But Jake is doing a lot of work in this space, and I am happy to have Jake here and tell us what they've been working on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. And hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I wonder if I might be able to share my screen to kind of have this little visual presentation go along with this. I wonder if Chris, I believe you're the host. Perfect. Thank you. Getting the permissions. Perfect. All right, can everyone see the visual there?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So as Michael said, my name is Jake Fedorowski. My pronouns are they, them. And I'm on the board of Seattle Frontrunners, where I chair the membership and communications committee. As you may have seen in an email that I sent to, I think, most of the people on this call a few weeks ago, I'm a non-binary runner and have been working to make the sport more inclusive, especially for non-binary folks. For the purposes of this chat, this presentation, I'm going to be using non-binary as an umbrella term that basically is, identifying anyone that identifies outside of the male-female gender binary. So what started all of this was the realization that every time I went to register for a race, I was being forced to choose between a men's or women's division, two identities that I don't subscribe to, which then led to a conversation with a race director about creating a non-binary division. And while he was very interested in the idea, he had a lot of questions, follow-up questions that I wasn't able to answer in that moment. So I did my research. I had conversations with 30 plus race directors, athletes, clubs, organizations, and even governing bodies such as USATF to better equip myself. So based on a study completed in 2021 by the Williams Institute at UCLA School of Law, there are 1.2 million non-binary adults ages 18 to 60 years old in the United States alone, which makes up for about 11% of the LGBTQIA+ population in the States. That's 1.2 million. So I decided there's got to be some endurance athletes out there within that 1.2 million. I'm going to group them all together. I'm going to create a cohort with the hopes that we could serve as both a support group for one another and then also as like a sounding board for feedback and for, a place to go as we start to work on this inclusion efforts or on the inclusion efforts. That group now consists of about 40 individuals and continues to grow every day. And once that was established, I basically came to the conclusion that we had two needs or two projects. One of those projects was a database for any and all races that have a non-binary division, so that those who are seeking for more inclusive events can actually find them, as well as a guide for race directors who are looking to create this division, but didn't really know or don't really know how to start. I also imagine this guide could be used by people like me or allies who are wanting to have these conversations, but didn't have the knowledge or didn't feel confident enough to step into that space in order to initiate that conversation. So as for the first project, the database, we've collected data from about 200 races so far, primarily in the US, a few in Canada. The spreadsheet is currently being shared with anyone who wants access to it. And I can gladly make that available to everyone on this call if you would like to share it more widely. The next step with that is to fundraise and find a developer to create a website or some sort of app that is able to share that information more widely. As for the second project, I've been working really hard on this guide for the past few weeks. And I've distributed the second draft of it to a small, diverse group of people from the industry to get their feedback. I'm in talks with someone who's being contracted by Running USA to create a template for a trans and non-binary inclusion policy. And our idea is that these two, that policy and this guide could exist as a pair. These two materials could be shared more widely with the industry, in the coming weeks or months as races are looking for materials and resources to make their events more inclusive. So still kind of in the works of how that might come to be and what that will look like. And, whether there will be some sort of compensation involved for those who helped, draft this. But anyways, all that's in the works. So why have I come to you? Why have I come to IFR? There are two reasons. My dog is making lots of noises. Ollie, stop it. First of all, I come to IFR to ask for support with this initiative. As an international LGBTQIA+ sport organization, I see a wonderful opportunity here for IFR to help advocate for those that this initiative will benefit. I leave it to this committee and to the organization at large to decide what sort of resources, time, and dedication the organization is able and willing to give. And second, as someone who is working diligently to make Seattle Frontrunners a more welcoming and inclusive club, for everyone on the LGBTQIA+ spectrum, as Michael referenced, I come to this committee to ask what sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion work is being done at IFR so that clubs feel more empowered to do this work and to speak on behalf of their non-binary members and for those who identify with these different identities. I noticed that in IFR's mission statement and constitution as it currently is laid out on the website, there's some outdated terminology. In accordance with the Article 3.4 of the Constitution, which is to develop the activities, organizations, and structure of IFR to strive towards gender parity, I ask IFR, or I call on IFR to update this language you can see in both this slide and then the next slide that there are some highlighted parts of language that could and should be updated to be more representative of the entire queer spectrum. And then I also asked this committee and the organization at large, what kind of conversations are being had around inclusivity? I can't speak to the greater international community of clubs, but the membership of the clubs in the US primarily is consisting of white, cis, gay men. And this is a problem. This is a problem both within Seattle Frontrunners and within the US as a whole, and I would imagine with some clubs in the international community. And it's challenging because we're an organization, we meaning Seattle Frontrunners, are an organization that really prides ourselves on being a space for everyone on the queer spectrum. But when you look at our membership, that's not reflected. And so why is that? I'm currently leading the board to fix this problem and to find those solutions, but I challenge IFR to do the same. Might a position be created within this committee or within the organization at large that's focused on DEI work? Might a DEI statement be created and promoted and shared with the mission, the constitution, the who are we language that IFR currently has? International Frontrunners exists. There are many clubs operating around the world, and I think that is a wonderful thing. But who do we say those clubs are for, and who actually feels welcome and included in those environments that those clubs create? There's so much work to be done. There's so many questions to be asked and to answer. And I know it's daunting. I'm going through it with this non-binary guide, but it's necessary. It's super important. Our community has for so long been pushed to the side and erased, but there are certain letters of the LGBTQIA+ acronym who have found freedom and affirmation in today's society in the US, but others have not. There are certain letters that are still left out of many things, many organizations, many spaces. So how can we as Seattle Frontrunners, as the larger IFR organization, make changes so that is not the case, so that we are inclusive of the entire spectrum of queer identities? So that's just a little bit about the work that I'm doing, both on the non-binary side of things, but then also weaving in some of the things I'm noticing both within Seattle Frontrunners and the IFR community, and trying to answer some of these questions about how to make both the organization and the sport more inclusive. So just wanted to introduce those things, pose some questions to the committee, and then just open it up if there are any thoughts, questions, ideas related to either of those things. I would love to hear them, and I'd love to chat about any DEI work that has maybe been happening that maybe I just don't know about within the IFR space.
Hi, Jake. Also,
hi.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can.
My name is Budi, and I identify as questioning, or queer questioning or exploring right now. I haven't made the full transition to, or I haven't declared if I was non-binary or anything. But yeah, I do notice, everything that you said, about the word, male and female, and how when we have our database of membership, it's just male and female. And I think this is the things that I've been thinking of discussing as well. But yeah, I would love to interview you as well for our upcoming newsletter, and discuss a lot of things that we can take it on from there as well. So get in touch after meeting with me, and I can't wait to have a one-on-one call with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you.
Jake, I was curious, were you involved in the Brooks, they asked me to connect people in the non-binary community with them recently. Were you involved in that effort by Brooks?
I believe so. Do you know what specifically it was for? I've been involved with Brooks for a few different things.
I think it was interviews for their website, newsletter website. They were going to do
they're doing an outreach to the non-binary community just in the last few weeks. And I
Okay.
introduced them to a number of people around the country. And I'm hoping you were involved since you guys are so close to Brooks. But if you weren't involved, I can do an introduction to
Yeah.
Raisa, who handled that.
Yeah, that would be great. I've chatted with them about a few different things. They've been a really great support system in a lot of this, and I've chatted with Brooks on like non-binary panels to kind of share more about this with their staff. But I would love a connection to be made if that is possible.
So Raisa isn't one of the people you've spoken with?
No, that I don't. I've spoken. Usually, it's Shannon Woods is who I connect with.
Okay, let me pull up the email exchange. It was a few weeks ago. And the other one, have you spoken with CC at Les Run?
I have had many conversations with CC.
Great, because they're doing a really strong effort. She's very involved with the Philadelphia Distance Run, and they've now created the non-binary division. And I know she's been doing a big push. So I'm glad you're connected to her. Those were my two questions.
Perfect.
Jake, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can.
I'm Brad Miyasato. I, along with like Wayne Morgan and Alden, we were part of the group that came up with the IFR Constitution and bylaws, and we recognize that at the time we did this, we tried to. The reason why we added this issue about male and female and gender parity was because at the time, the Federation of Gay Games wanted us to promote that. And so that's why we made a conscious effort of putting that in the bylaws. Now we have recognized that things have changed, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing. We've had questions from different clubs about, when we send out our renewal notices, we ask about their membership, and we've added a non-binary category to that listing, but we still are looking at that. In fact, I was just talking to Alden about this a couple of weeks ago. So we thank you for being here, and we definitely want to work with you in making sure that we're as inclusive as possible.
Yeah. It's funny, we're going through one of the projects I'm pushing our board to go through right now is to update our own bylaws, which has many of the same issues. So yeah, it's just kind of top of mind right now. But yeah, I would love to, if you're looking to, if you have questions about those revisions or how to be more inclusive with that language, feel free to reach out. I am definitely having a lot of these conversations already, so I'm here.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I would just wanting to let everybody else have their say before I chimed in, because I've had a lot to do with an organization here called Pride and Diversity, which is run by one of the health organizations in New South Wales, but it's a national arm, and they actually aren't funded by the government, unlike the rest of their health organization. They make their money by doing what Jake is doing now, and they get paid for it. So that you subscribe to be part of Pride and Diversity. And I think there's another one called Sport and Diversity at the moment, which is the same organization, but they do it for sport. So they go around, and the first thing they do is update their documentation. So things like the Constitution, all the manuals, the training material, everything that an organization puts together. This is for business, or it could be for sports clubs, or it could be for sports federations. So whether it's our multiple football codes or cricket or whatever, or in our case, it'd be our running stuff. So all of our guides, all of our discussions, when we send the newsletter out, it's stuff that we should be aware of, and we should tailor our language to that too. So they produce these guides, they do training, and I think their business model, Jake, you might be interested in, we can discuss it another time, is that you subscribe to being a member of Pride and Diversity, and then there's various things that they can do for you on a personal level, come do seminars, talk to people, do presentations for their work or their sport. And so it just surfacing that information about non-binary documentation, address, not excluding people, not erasing people, bringing that to the fore inside an organization. So that's how they finance it. I can see for us, it might be something that we probably want to sting Brooks for again, another grant that we might want to put in, or we might want to dip into our funds for helping to produce such documentation if there's a cost involved. I know with all of this volunteer stuff, we're all volunteers and there's no end of work. There's plenty of work, but nobody gets paid for any of it. That's the only problem. And I'm sure you're acutely aware, Jake, that this is taking a lot of time for you. And yeah, I'm sure you're sort of struggling to see if there's if your gap in the market is a market or whether it's just work that you've got to do.
Yeah, for sure. That's super exciting. I'm hearing about a few different organizations, around the world. So that's super, helpful. I'm gonna definitely add that to my list to look into. But I am definitely aware of the volunteer aspect. It is a lot, but it honestly, it's necessary, and it's really challenging when I have non-binary friends who go to register for a race and aren't able to, they don't see themselves reflected in that registration, and the race director has, they are not willing to work with that runner to make any sort of accommodations or changes. So I definitely see a need for it, and that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
I wanted to just ask. I know just kind of from my own research, but within IFR, is there anyone having any sort of DEI conversations? Would those conversations be falling to this committee? Is there a DEI committee? Is there a DEI person? What sort of conversations have or haven't been had in that regard?
Hi, Jake. It's me again. I'm so sorry for taking the time again. So yeah, I'm leading the I'm the regional representative of Asia and Australia, Australia and Asia Pacific. And next week I'm hosting women's networking event for my region to connect inspirational women, including the latest women who started Chiang Mai front runners, and we have a couple of more seats who are led by women. Hopefully we will launch more front runners in Asia. I think so far the D&I initiatives has been done region by region, but I would love to exchange best practices with my counterparts in different regions as well. It's I'd love to connect with you after this as well. Thank you about that.
Perfect. Yeah, no, thank you.
And I see from the chat that everybody's interested in getting hold of your document, this presentation, and any other information you wish to share with us, Jake. I think we'd like to probably, I don't know if we'll talk about it afterwards, but I think we'd probably like to circle back and chat with you again about this initiative.
Sorry, can I just say something quickly?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So Jake, so just to let you know, so I've had it's Martin here from Northern Europe, and I've had one of my regional meetings lately, and one of the questions that was asked, especially by one of our largest clubs, London Frontrunners, was precisely, as you mentioned, how to tackle the non-binary issue when it comes to races. And so we have had quite a substantial discussion, and one of the things I was personally quite surprised to find out as I was sort of preparing the answer for the clubs myself was to find out that at least in UK, all the regions in the world might work differently, but the way, the UK works is we've got 3 major government bodies in terms of athletics. So I was quite surprised to find out that in terms of Scottish athletics, it was actually my local club and the neighboring club, Glasgow Frontrunners, that have basically in the last, say, the space of 4 years, basically really petitioned Scottish Athletics, which was the local government body, to say we are having several races a year and we are having such and such number of members, and that consider themselves as non-binary, but there just isn't a category for that. And we don't necessarily think, that's the right approach forward. So essentially, it was through rigorous communication with like I said, the bodies that represent the different athletics organizations that we've actually managed to establish Scotland to be one of the first regions in Europe to actually have a non-binary category officially recognized within all the races that we do. So essentially, if a club is to have a race now, and especially if they are classified as an LGBTQIA club, they can now officially have an official non-binary categories for members to partake. And this is one of the basically what my response was to basically, in this case, London frontrunners, who are asking what can we do towards, having a non-binary category, because we're having such and such number of members that don't necessarily classify with the traditional male to female spectrum, and we're not sure how to actually, proceed without currently having a non-binary category. So my answer really was try and push, your local authorities, just have conversations, try and inform people. I mean, I think that's one of the things we were quite strong in Scotland, and maybe it's just the fact that a lot of our clubs have quite a large number of members that would consider themselves non-binary, and we're really trying to push that issue over the years. But that's essentially how we got around it. So just what I would share that. So
thank you so much. I've spoken with Al Hopkins, who I believe is with Glasgow Frontrunners, or no, Edinburgh Frontrunners. And they were super helpful in kind of sharing some of the journey with Scottish athletics, because I think they were super involved in that process. So yeah, I mean, the more non-binary athletes I can connect with and have conversations with, like I said, I've chatted with about 30 different individuals or organizations at this point. So just growing the list and having more conversations is wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you, Jake, for the excellent presentation. You're very well spoken, and I appreciate the time and effort you put into the presentation that you gave today. I really appreciate it. And I do think that there's work to be done in so many areas here. A lot of them are sort of big but important nonetheless. I do think that there are more tactical things that clubs can be doing today. I know that because of some of the work that you're doing and the fact that you pointed out the sort of the verbiage in the IFR bylaws, I went back and looked at the bylaws for our own club and found that there were likewise dated and outdated verbiage there as well. So we did make an effort to update our club bylaws here in Palm Springs as a result of your efforts. We also made it a condition we made it a requirement for our race timing companies this year for our Pride Run that they're able to support a non-binary division. Not all of them are. And if they said, sorry, we can't do that, we would not consider using them. So making that I think a requirement going forward is something that other clubs could do sort of immediately. They feel like small things, but I think small things lead to big things, and they're things that can be done immediately while work is being done on sort of a larger scale to address this as well. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
The way that we've structured this guide, or that I've structured the guide, is that it's basically before adding a division. Like, here are the steps you can do before adding a division. Here are the steps you do if you've decided to add this new division. And then here are the follow-up steps. And that before steps process are as you spoke to, kind of the more simple things, right? The things you could do today without additional resources, money, time, like, how are you including the use and the sharing of pronouns? When your club is circling up, how are you including that in your email signatures? Or if you're on a call, like adding them to your name? Like, what are those things that we can do immediately that don't require extra effort, that can create more of a welcoming and inclusive environment for all? and I'm very excited to get this guide to a place where I can then like share it, and I would love to share it with all of you, and I'm sure you'll see many posts on social media about it. But yeah, those are some of those things that you can definitely, any club can start incorporating today before even adding a division. Great. I mean, did anyone else have any other questions or thoughts on that? I know y'all have a agenda to get to. What I can do is I will maybe Michael, should I just email you? I can send you the link for the database, sure. As well as just this very brief presentation. And then once the guide is in more of a place to be shared, I can then share that with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
That's great. Well, and I think we want to see you again, Jake. So, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of conversations from members of this committee about things. So thank you very much for getting us started. It's great to get that from you. I know when we've talked about just the language in the Constitution and various documents in the past, we have taken a long time. So it's an evolving conversation. We obviously have a lot of work to do, always have a lot of work to do on this. So thank you very much.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a lovely rest of the meeting, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Jake. Bye.
So yeah, thank you, Michael, for getting Jake through, because I think it's something that's very important. We have to take it into account for all of our communications and for our documents. I think Brad raised an interesting point there about the official documents like the Constitution. We'd obviously have to have, if we wanted to change the language in that, come up with a new draft and have that in the AGM for change. So we'd need to get that through at our next AGM. Would people support having a committee work on that language and have a revised Constitution that we could potentially approve for the next AGM?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Just a quick comment there. When we developed the Constitution and the group started, our intention was for it to be an inclusive group, and we were just working with the language at the time. So, certainly our intentions were to have our organization be inclusive. So I think we can look at the language and see if there's issues we can cover. I'm happy to work on other people are interested as well.
So Alden, who else would be interested in being part of that? Brad?
Yeah.
Booty, obviously. I think is he at the run now? I think he might. Oh, he's.
Sorry. Yes.
Yep. I'll put you. Yep.
We put you on the committee.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Martin, you sound like you've had some work on this. You.
Yep. Perfect. Yes.
Anybody else?
No, would
we should get involved? I think we should try to involve Emma.
We'll invite everybody by email anyway, so anyone who wants to join can be part of that team.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Anything else anyone wants to raise from Jake's discussion? And Buddy, could you go on mute, please, because we can hear your speeches in the background. Thanks. No. Okay. Next item. Next item is Wayne's report. So Wayne, do you want to go on to your special projects?
Yes, well, I'm not sure if they're my special projects. Hong Kong, as you know, is now asking Guadalajara to co-host the Gay Games. I can't tell you how many little Zoom meetings I've been at in the last 10 days, but it's been many. And I don't have any answers. The only thing that I can tell you is that Hong Kong is going to have the games at exactly the same date. That is the only positive information.
Will, for example, the runs be moving? Like, will the North Americans be able to fly Aeromexico and just go downstairs?
We don't know. But I think we as an organization should start and probably come forward with a plan because I don't think it's going to work into such diverse cities.
Or it might work better in Guadalajara for
well,
a lot of people.
Yeah. There's so many issues. Guadalajara haven't even said yes. Right. So, you know, I think Hong Kong have been too positive about this. Guadalajara haven't even said yes. They haven't decided to do this. They don't know how it's going to be done. They don't know whether they'll take on some sports.
Seems strange to announce it then at that stage.
Yeah.
I think Hong Kong might be worried about whether they're going to fail. Is that potentially the reason they did it, Wayne?
Hong Kong is getting screwed by Beijing. It's nothing to do with gay stuff. It's just they're
worried about dissent and harmony.
Yes, and Hong Kong keeps pushing for independence again, and more freedoms, and they're not going to get it. And every few weeks, Beijing puts the screws on them. Hong Kong is very worried about this and what will happen in a year and a half's time. In my gut feeling is, from talking to so many people in Hong Kong, is that Hong Kong will have an Asian Games, and they will be the Asian-inspired sports, badminton, dragon boat racing, and interesting for us is trail running. So that particular event might be retained in Hong Kong, or the others might go to Guadalajara if Guadalajara accept.
And is there a time frame or a date?
No, there is no. We have nothing.
Okay. This
it's
situation.
ASAP. It's everything is ASAP.
Yep.
So it's really difficult, but we have to. I think we should be proactive and start saying, do we want to go to one city? Do we want to go to both cities? That's going to be a key, and we have a lot of power.
Do you have stats on like which would be preferred from a running perspective, aside from the fact they want to keep trail running? Like, would Guadalajara be preferred from the number of people who participate in it to go to America?
I don't have those statistics.
Okay, because I think that we had those from Paris, didn't we? That like what clubs attended and how many people were in each race and things like that. Did they compile that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Is it something we need to ask the regional reps to ask their clubs about which would be your preferred?
Well,
if you are?
It's certainly, we should, yes, a good idea. We need to start saying,
if you had to choose,
if you had to choose, which one would you go to?
So
maybe why can't we do separate, but why can't we do, you choose which one you go to? Are they going to be the exact same dates, Wayne?
No, that's what I started this conversation with. No, it's not the same.
I fell out. My internet went away. I just sent a chat saying that my internet's died twice today. You know, New York City doesn't have very good internet. Go figure. So two different dates. So theoretically,
it could be two different dates.
Okay.
If you missed the important information, is Guadalajara hasn't even accepted.
I heard that part when I came back. Yeah. Right.
So Guadalajara can pick what they want, and yeah.
The word they're using is presumptive. I saw.
Yes.
So I think no decisions to be made yet until things are finalized. Is Guadalajara going to join? Is Hong Kong going to actually go forward? What the dates will be? My guess is people from the U.S. are going to go to Guadalajara.
That's exactly right, and that's a big impact on the games.
Yeah, but my guess is we weren't going to have a huge number going to Hong Kong anyway, although it will draw some. That's true. If it's going to be in two places, why can't we support both equally?
It just depends on whether Hong Kong is going to jettison the races. So I'm concerned that if they're only keeping trail, then they've said in the past, Wayne, they're having trouble securing venues for the other races.
No, that is all
resolved.
Well, we're waiting. Particularly for track and field and some other things. I've been emphasizing they're moving away from any government organization or government owned tracks, fields, whatever, and they're moving to privately owned places. So universities are being used a lot. So they're very worried that the government will come along 2 weeks before and say, well, no, you can't have this venue. So what they've done is they're re-looking at venues. The venue they want to use heavily for running is a university with a great big development going on, and it's not finished yet. Okay. And if you don't know, Hong Kong is in, I can't use any other word, but in the shit at the moment. They've got loads of COVID. Beijing's unhappy that they've got so much COVID. They want to be a COVID-free country. And it's rife in Hong Kong at the moment. So things are moving slowly. Pardon me.
Well, let's move on from this because it just seems like there's nothing we can do but be concerned and worried. So,
well, I actually think we maybe should survey our members. So if we do have to make a decision, we can clearly have some numbers.
I was going to say it's not difficult to put together a poll. And we could poll people on Facebook and Insta.
Yep.
So if you want to come up with some language around that, Wayne, and we can circulate it by email, and maybe then the comms team can put it up on the platforms and we can get you the results. So if we commit to doing that within the next, say, 2 weeks, do you think?
Right. I want to interject. I'm concerned that could be perceived by Hong Kong as hostile. I feel like we shouldn't do anything until there's some clear decisions on what's going to be happening. And as Chris said, we can put together a survey very quickly. We could do it tomorrow if we needed to. So I'm concerned that we'll get a call from someone in Hong Kong and say, hey, what are you guys doing? You're sabotaging us. So I feel like as the official governing body of one of the larger sports, we should sit back and let them work it out before we weigh in.
Good point.
Okay. I agree. We should have something more definitive to have a poll about, as long as we can pull it together quickly. I'm not too concerned about what Hong Kong thinks, since they're announcing presumptive things.
All right. So at the moment, the only thing we know is Hong Kong is supposed to go ahead on the same date. So
yes,
should we just...
The only thing positive.
Yes, I know everything can change, but we know that from past out games and things like that as well, that everything can change.
And not for almost 2 years, so we have time.
So let's leave it for the time being. We can catch it up on email if something develops, Wayne, if you've got something concrete.
Yep, we can do that. So that then delays all our other projects to do with the gay games, like scholarships and our AGM in that year and whatever. So just be aware of that. The other project is we're coming up to International Frontrunners Day, 15th of June. I will be I don't know if you all know, but it's Mardi Gras next weekend, so it's kind of really super busy here. But once Mardi Gras is over, I'm going to start focusing on International Frontrunners Day. I'm going to be asking members or clubs to put things on our social media, but why it's so good to be a front runner, why they join front runners, what their life, maybe their life's changed, who knows. We want to emphasize the importance of front runners as part of our daily life, or weekly life, whatever you want to call it, and the impact it's had on that. So we will be just asking for people to make some stories up. They can do videos, they can do whatever they want. That's all undergo. And just to let you know, World Pride 23 is in Sydney. Sydney Front Runners has been approved as an authorised sport, so we've got our World Pride run, World Pride / Mardi Gras run. In next year, we've got a 5K, a 10K, and for those like Brad and Alden, we're having a handbag toss. So if you want to be the world champion handbag tosser, you need to come to Sydney and participate.
This is going to be next year, next
Yes.
January,
late February, March.
2023. So, okay. And so that may be our 2023 AGM a little early.
Well, I've written that down, but yeah.
It is very early though. We would have
Yes,
just had
yeah.
the other one. 6
Yes.
months later, we'll have another AGM. I don't know.
You can have your next,
8 months.
you can have your other AGM in either Hong Kong or Guadalajara.
Yeah, 8 months. Not terrible.
Well, we'll be like COP26 or whatever it is and have it in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Have it in Hawaii. That's halfway.
That's true. Brad can host.
Oh, I heard he's got so many in one of his estates.
Okay, so that's the end of your projects report, Wayne. Maybe
So.
you can write something up about International Frontrunners Day for the newsletter as well. You want to put a couple of paragraphs together for that?
Sure.
Wayne, should your international frontrunner suggestions go to the communications committee? I'm thinking maybe a nice little vignette of quick interviews, videos, almost like the old It Gets Better videos that went out there.
Yeah.
What has Frontrunners done for you in 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and go around the world, and that could be a lot of fun.
Yep. I had all those sorts of things in mind, but I hadn't heard from anybody, so that would be terrific.
Throw it on the communications agenda.
So pop that in for Martin, Thomas, and Woody. Yeah, maybe maybe a TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay. Treasurer's report, Alden. Oh,
yeah.
I've got your documents too. I should put them up just a second. But go ahead if you want to start.
Yeah. So I think everyone got them. I distributed a couple of documents. The first one would be the finalized annual 2021 Treasurer's Report. And just in summary, there was only a few additional items that changed following the AGM, things that happened in December. So the main things there, of course, is the $20,000 Brooks grant that we got. And as we mentioned before, that's mostly distributed except for the $750 allocated to Hong Kong event and so forth.
I have contacted them again. The code is rubbish. It's complicated, but anyway, we'll get there. Give me some time. We'll get there.
Yep, that's fine. So that's the only thing that's pending. Some of that was distributed in December, so it is reflected in the 2021 year-end report, and the remainder of it is in January of 2022. Otherwise, the only additional thing that's in there is the delegate reimbursement. So I don't know if you want me to go through the figures. Everyone has that in front of them, I guess. But just to, yeah, it's kind of skewed. The numbers are a bit skewed just because of the donation amount in there, but the ending balance we have is $26,790.26, as you see. And the other expenses are in line with the budget and what we had expected to pay between the bank fees, the Federation of Gay Games fee and delegate reimbursement. And the club promotion item was the event that we had coincident with the AGM last year. So that's pretty straightforward otherwise.
So Alden, the donation incoming, is that $20,000, and the Brooks stuff is under that donations?
Yes, exactly.
So that's the incoming donation to
right.
us, and then the outgoing donations to the clubs?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I
All right.
debated whether to put that out separately. It was just set up that way, and I hadn't reworked my spreadsheet. So I debated if we should have that, because originally the donations there was there because of potentially we had donations from clubs to IFR just for our general fund. So
yeah, I thought that was a donation to the Alden Travel Fund.
Ah, sounds good to me. But that wasn't how we did it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can go on if there's no other questions beyond that.
I have a question about the club promote, and maybe that we do this afterwards. The club promotion amount that we did, we've had questions. Michael, you asked about whether we were going to do that some more kind of club or regional promotions. And then also, I think we need to discuss, are we going to try to do another club promotion amount to one of the, I don't know, I guess it's Amsterdam, whoever's going to, whatever club is closest to Eurogames. Just following on that.
Do we have any other Dutch clubs other than Amsterdam?
Not at the moment, no.
So that was a little bit discussed in our the last AGM where we talked about the budget. I was going to send out the budget to everyone, but there is an amount. Let's see. Hold on just one second. So we had contemplated that, and there, you know, we have an amount allocated to IFR Social, which was originally visioned to be in Hong Kong, but since that was deferred, we did have that amount in the budget, and there's money for the AGM. So that's what was contemplated as far as those events. And otherwise, we had the long-standing items in there for club promotion was amounts for regions that we had that we allocated for them to use to promote clubs in their region. So those are the amounts in the budget.
Michael, did you want to bring up your thoughts on that?
I would, why don't we hold that till new business or other points?
Okay.
Just given this wasn't in the budget before.
Okay.
Is there no website fees at all?
The amount that we paid previously was for 2 years, so there was no amount this past year. So there will be amount come in this upcoming year.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So otherwise, then going on to the second document I sent out is just the year-to-date treasurer's report, and it's really pretty simple because basically now all that we have there is our membership fees that have come in to date, and along with the bank fees associated with that, as well as the bank fees associated with distributing the Brooks grants. And then there's the amount for the Brooks grants donations that was the part done in January, which was the $8,500. So our ending balance just year to date is $20,519.93. And as part of that, as I mentioned, there's $750 of the Brooks grant remaining in that balance. And that does not reflect actually the dues that came in this morning, because I printed this yesterday and sent it out. So there was one club that renewed this morning.
What were the bank fees? Because I know with the wires, I took care of those and my bank picked up the wire fee. What were the Brooks bank fees?
When we use PayPal, there's a fees associated with that.
Oh,
so
okay.
And that goes for the club renewals as well. So that's what the $120 in bank fees is, all our PayPal fees.
Okay, so it's club renewals and the Brooks. Okay.
Right, it's a combination of both. I didn't separate it out in that column. So that's pretty straightforward. I don't know if there's any questions, but that's where we stand currently. That 20,000, just so folks know, it's made up of $19,974.91 in our bank account, and we have $545.02 in our PayPal account. So it's mostly in our bank account. Any questions on that?
All good.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask just a general question for Alden? And this probably affects Brad as well. but I've had clubs in local to Australia asking me, are membership numbers wrong? Because many clubs are reporting their Facebook membership or Strava membership or Instagram membership, and they're not reflecting real membership.
Yeah, I think Emma had this question as well.
Yeah.
And my response was, Adelaide does the same thing. They report their Facebook membership, which is like 100, but they only have 20 or so that turn up for a run, maybe less.
Perth also, they reckon that it's double.
Yeah.
So they really only have about 120 members.
I would take it from the
240.
I would take it from what the local club has on their books, not their Strava membership or Facebook for our purposes. They can report whatever they like for publicity, but I would say from our membership, like in order to determine how much we should be charging them for their membership dues, it should be what their official, I would say, paid up, but some of them aren't paid up. Sometimes they're just voluntary, but whatever the club says are their membership, the ones that they keep in contact with, that's what I would take, not Facebook or Strava or anything else.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so I think we have a couple of new clubs in my region that are still trying to figure out how to, like, say, structure their club, and also, like, say, figure out like if they're going to charge membership fees. I know that in Canada, for example, Ottawa Frontrunners doesn't charge membership fees, and then like you might want to figure out, like, say, how do they determine their own official memberships, for example. You know, like, the same thing is happening with newer clubs, and I think we should be kinder, and also like, you know, just like be patient with how they try to figure out themselves. So, you know, if they report that their number is a certain number, just take it as it is, and then, like, say, in the coming years they'll come to sort this out as well. So yeah, I ask for patience as well. Thank you.
But that's not the issue. Because new clubs are usually under 25 and they don't pay a fee.
I understand that. You know, I also,
it's the big clubs that are saying they've got, for example, 250 members and they only have half that.
Okay, so like, so currently in my region, the largest one is Melbourne Frontrunners, and we do charge membership fees, and then it gets them like a Victorian Athletics membership, and then
so it seems Spectrum Internet isn't the only internet that's having trouble.
No, my question for Alden is that is that reflective in our books, or is it reflective in our accounts?
Buddy,
we're losing you.
Buddy, your I'll just mute him for a second. Buddy, your service is bad.
It's pretty funny, but
you know,
Buddy, we can't understand you. Your service is breaking up.
Okay, so in response to that, Wayne, what we've always done is it's been.
I can't mute him either.
Why can't you mute him? You control the.
I know, but I think he's I think the quality is so bad that the client on his end is not allowing me to control it. That's a clever thing. If you ever want to Zoom bomb something, just make sure it's on a really dodgy connection. Buddy, I think you're breaking up. We want to just go on mute for a bit. I think we understood what you said, and other people have some stuff they want to talk about.
Yeah, so we've always left it up to the clubs to establish their membership. So and as you say, some clubs do not have a fee-based membership, and so others do. And so we've always relied on what the club reports as their membership. So we haven't reached down into the club to dictate anything with that. And so there is a little bit of a new world with all the Facebook membership and so forth, which has grown up since then. But we've always said the club defines what their membership is.
Sure. Oh, I agree.
That's right. And in the past, we've had Russian front runners. I just saw Richard's chat. We've had Russian front runners. Let's get them on board. We have had Melbourne front runners reporting that they've got fewer than 50 members when they have 100 people turn up for a run, but they actually don't have that many official members. So it's also a thing where we have that in Sydney, and we had to constantly tell people that they need to register, they need to pay their front runners dues. So they might be turning up for runs, but not being members, not taking the responsibility and not the financial responsibility of being members. So we always have to go with what the club reports, and Alden keeps that in that spreadsheet for the AGM at least.
Right. And does Melbourne have a paid membership fees?
Yes, it does. And
Yeah,
then like
so
it gives them like Victorian Athletics membership.
So they have that basis, or whichever they want to report.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
And it's up to them to decide to levy a fee. We don't force them to. And so,
Sure.
for example, it might be the club president might decide not to have the club committee might decide not to have fees, and the president, if there's a IFR fee that they might charge, to pay it out of their own pocket, because it is so small. We haven't revised that fee for how long? Over 10 years. Alden's on pause.
Just trying to unmute myself. Yeah, so it's been what, 23 years so that was established.
Yeah,
never changed them.
So if you wanted to put budget items together to develop some sort of program of works, then I'm sure that you could fund it out of membership rather than having to get Brooks to do things too. But at the moment, this suits us, so I don't propose we change it. I'm just saying that it is, as you say, 23 years, hasn't changed. And I think for some of my other clubs, like cycling or triathlon or whatever, it's hundreds of dollars now to be members of those things annually. 140, 175, 375 to be Triathlon Australia. So, I think $50 is not a big ask. But anyway, that's for another time.
Right, and any changes that would come up at the AGM if we want to discuss expanded budget items or then expanded fees to help us ascertain that. So it's up to us at the AGM.
So if anybody does think that they have stuff that needs budget support, then I guess we put it into the special projects bucket and talk about that if people want to develop a budget for it. I mean, I can see we've got things in the past we've funded just out of general revenue, which is like changing the logo. I think, maybe if Jake needs to be paid or if somebody wants to do some work in that sort of space, there might be some little fees, but I think if it's only a few $100s, then that's still within budget. But if it's bigger, if it's thousands, then people can come to us with a budget and suggest that. But that's for the AGM. So that's the end of the Treasurer's report, Alden?
Yes, as long as there's no other questions. Thanks.
Okay, then that brings us to the next item, which is club renewals. So how many derelict accounts have we got?
Okay, so I can give a quick, just a quick intro to that, and then there may be other discussions that we can have around that. But so currently, as we said, we have 116 clubs from, was our count from last year. And the numbers change because I see someone just moved the Chiang Mai Club on the website. So, as of this morning, so with 116 clubs and 5 pending clubs, now I guess it's really 117 and 4 pending clubs. 70 clubs have renewed to date. 40 of those 70 are clubs that paid dues. So in other words, more than 25 members. So there's 46 clubs yet to renew on that. And of that, there's 16 that had previously paid dues in the past, so that there are some larger clubs that are still outstanding. So what I would do is encourage the reps to, at this point now, since we're towards the end of February, to contact their clubs with reminders as far as the renewal process. If there's any questions, if they need to have the renewal notice resent to them so they can access the club information on the website, they can they can bug Brad about that to have have him resend that information. But I want to encourage the reps to remind the clubs at this stage that we need to resolve the membership renewals for this year. As part of that, it's really important to stress that they need to go into the IFR website to update their club info page, and that so that we know that information is up to date and accurate. And that's one of the conditions for renewal. Most clubs have done that. Of course, if you go in through the website, it sends you into the renewal process with that and updating that information. So that all happens seamlessly. We do have some issues with a couple clubs where they sent in a check separately, or there may be no fee due, so that they just send the form to me. And I have sent reminders out to those clubs to say you also need to go into the IFR website to review your information and to reflect that, so that it gets reflected as a current date for their updates. The two clubs that I sent notices and they have not yet done that renewal is Hong Kong for one, and Quebec. So they're the reps for those areas. Just keep that in mind when you have sent out the reminders. We need to remind them about making sure they update the IFR website.
Thank you.
So that's pretty much the intro to where we are with renewals. I don't know if there's specific questions or if there's other things that we want to discuss. I have one other point, but to talk about on that, but I thought I'd open it for any questions on that part.
Hey, Alden, I have a specific question, and if you don't know the answer, I can email you. But you mentioned the number of clubs that have paid dues in the past that have not yet updated. Do you know if Rossmore Frontrunners is on that list? Because they have only ever had 2 members that I know of, yet for some reason they sent us a membership dues of $75 back in 2017.
I think I can tell you what happened with Rossmore. I helped to kick them off. And initially the first number of walks had a lot of people, had 50, 60 people coming. And they had a dinner where they had lots and lots of people. So I think it started off with a bang. And lately, Chris, the founder, who's really not involved with them anymore, has been renewing their membership. But they're pretty, at this point, I think there's not a lot happening. And I think Chris's explanation last year was that with COVID, things are kind of shut down.
Okay.
Do you have Chris's contact info?
I do.
Or do you, okay.
I do. Yep.
The
the other thing is,
Brad,
this might be
okay, go ahead.
I was just going to comment to Brad. I see that you added a placeholder for non-binary members and the club profile update, but that's not reflected on the general club list in terms of number of total members.
Yeah, I know. Somebody brought that to my attention a few weeks ago, and yeah, I need to update that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alden, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's fine. Yeah, I was just going to comment that we do have record of the Rossmore, payment in 2019 for the 75, but as Richard said, they have renewed their information more recently. So they were not counted in that list of 16 clubs that formerly had paid that are outstanding, because that was only from last year to this year.
Okay, great, thanks.
So the one other point I was going to bring up was I've been talking with Brad since we're coordinating the renewal process and so forth, and trying to streamline the process or emphasize the process to make sure that the clubs know they have to go in and update the IFR website. As part of that, I had suggested to Brad that we streamline the renewal form, the physical paper form that we send out, and to have it just be a more limited information, more like just an invoice when a club wants to send a check in, as opposed to updating through the PayPal or credit card and the website. And so I proposed a simplified version, which just has the club name, the contact name, and the contact information for a phone or email address, along with the amount. As part of that, I also, since our fee is just based on number of members, I would put in that form just a line item for number of members, period, because that's what our fee is based on, and that's what we're interested. The reason we had that breakdown of male and female, as Brad mentioned before, was this the concern that we had with the Federation of Gay Games of trying to achieve gender parity. And so we were trying to gather that information, but we have never really used that information. And so I don't think it's critical to have it on the invoice form that they send back. I think it's another issue whether we want to have them report it in the IFR website and what we may do with that. So I think that's one of the issues I think we need to talk about and see whether that includes other categories besides male and female. And of course, the use of the word parity. If with 2 you can have parity, and with more, it's not quite the same beast anymore. But anyway, so I just wanted to sort of mention that as far as the dues renewal process, and see if the steering committee is happy with just Brad and I proceeding with that and taking care of those kinds of issues, or do we need to bring that before the steering committee and review the form? So just looking for feedback on that.
I think it's probably something like reviewing our documentation is something we can all work on, especially if we're going to be doing it in terms of gender parity or gender non-binary inclusivity. So if you've got to change the form, I think it's enough to send it around by email, but I don't know anybody else is going to throw themselves in front of that bus and look after the membership chasing. Anybody?
Right. I understand that part of with the Constitution and going before everybody. I think that's fine. I just wondered specifically about the membership form that we sent out, essentially the invoice. So, yep.
Yeah, I think if you just send it, could you send it out for comment before you start sending it to clubs? Because I think obviously it's better if we see it before it starts turning up and we see that there's some issues we'd like to raise. So I'm sure that you won't get any comments back, but if you could circulate it, that'd be great.
Right. It won't be going out until next January. So, but certainly send it around. Sure.
We'll discuss it before then, I'm sure.
Yep.
Because we'll come back to club renewals every meeting.
Right.
And as you can see, everyone, you could just go to your steering section and the information's there and it's live. Brad and Alden keep that updated. And then I think, is it you're just going to here to edit the documentation for your club?
Right. That's what I wanted to emphasize, just to make sure that the reps, which I didn't focus on, but I wanted to make sure that the reps realize that that information is there. They can go into the membership list, see who's outstanding in their region, who they need to send a reminder to. Hopefully that's straightforward. And then when they're talking to the club, it's the individual club that would go into their club info page and update the information specific to their club.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's clear to everybody.
So this form 2, male, female, we'd need a non-binary and we'd need a total. But anyway, that's for another time.
Right. So it's a question of whether we're concerned about maintaining that information or what. That's all part of the discussion, I think. Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so this is what Michael was talking about. This form is actually not the form that the clubs actually fill out, because the form that the clubs fill out does have a non-binary category in there. So this is what I need to update.
Yeah.
What the steering committee sees.
So if you could put that on your list, I think we've all agreed that we want that.
Yeah.
But there'll be probably more changes too. So
actually, you know what, Brad, I wasn't referring to that. I was referring, Chris, if you close this form and go back to just the club list.
Oh yeah, but it's also there as well. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In the column.
I think it all comes from the same sheet, does it?
Right. Right.
Same data.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is what you're talking about, Michael.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously we want another one, but I think what we need to see is that other one, and then this total column is being added here, but it doesn't reflect in the web form. So if Brad can add that total just so that people can see 5 and 5, and then it's got 3 non-binary,
right,
with all sums to the right number and blah blah.
Correct.
While we're talking about club renewals, I was checking to see which clubs had proposed to Brooks who haven't renewed. And I sent a renewal reminder to Omaha and the Provincetown. But since I have Chris and Wayne on the line here, Sydney also has not renewed. And so
I bet you I know why. Because you're still using my old email address. And I've asked and asked and asked and asked. Change my email address.
But that's under your control, Wayne, right? On the club info page.
on your renewal.
Yes,
That
but
should-
the email is not coming to us.
The one that Brad uses to send out the renewal notice?
Yes, yes. And I've written to Brad. I've written to Chris.
Brad,
Well, you
aren't you
No.
using what's on the club
Oh.
info page?
Well, let's change it now. What's it supposed to be?
It's W Morgan the first bit's all still the same, 2035 at iCloud.com.
Oh my God, it's almost as old. And then is there a save button?
The submit at the bottom.
Submit.
Are you you're in their
No,
club
no,
info
no.
page?
No, okay, so the thing is, only regional reps can update clubs in their region.
Oh, so Buddy's got to change it.
Right, so Buddy can change
Okay.
it. Or the,
Okay.
But wait,
obviously Sydney can do it.
Okay.
well, the Sydney rep can change it, right, Brian?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Sydney, yeah.
I can only view, but Buddy can edit the Asia Pac.
Right.
So Wayne, just send
Or-
him your email address and get him to
Or
change
the
it.
Sydney, or the Sydney club rep.
Right, or the club.
I am the club rep. I will do that.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Thanks, Wayne.
no. You probably don't have edit access to this form, Wayne. Try it, but see how you go.
I should have because I'm the club rep. Brad,
See how you go.
In any
I do it
case,
every year. I've been doing it every year we've ever had it.
in any case, have your membership updated by March 1st, or Brooks isn't getting your application.
I'll do it right now. So it'll be February the 28th, 7th.
So there you are, handy for us all to know that sometimes we ask Brad to do stuff, but it's because we need to do it ourselves.
That's very handy.
Self-service, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry we're so over time here. The only other thing that I had, and Martin will probably want to, Martin's brought this up a couple of times, so I'll let him talk to it as well. But talking to Buddy, we were trying to arrange some regional meetings for Buddy, and I've got a paid Zoom account that I use. Now, with the beginning of the pandemic, I just did that because I'm a member of so many body corporate and community associations and things like that, that I have, here we go, slam. We have paid meetings all the time, but it's difficult for me to then arrange meetings for other people with that account. Because I've got to start it and all that sort of stuff, and there's all security around it. So I was just wondering whether it would be sensible for us to have an IFR Zoom account that we could use for the reps to have meetings in their regions. Would people think that that would be something we'd be happy to pay for? It'd be what is it, $20, $21 a year, so it's about $250. That's Australian, so it's probably a lot less in hard currency.
Was that per month, did you say? Or
It's a 20 Australian a month.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep. Would we be okay if that was funded by, if we arrange that in Olden, you could somehow pay for it? Is that
Chris,
possible?
doesn't Zoom let you have free membership?
You can only have a meeting for 45 minutes and then it can cut you off. And they haven't always cut people off. I know I've been on a Sydney Front Runners meeting where they didn't cut us off, but it does come up with that thing that says, you know, you cheap bastard, you didn't pay the, I'm going to extend you, but this is only supposed to be a 45-minute meeting.
But
I think Hillary,
by paying, does it give us the option to put in the front runner handle on the address?
oh, well, it would be, we'd register it to the Front Runners Gmail account or something like that.
Well, but sometimes you'll get a company where it'll say Zoom front runners, Zoom.frontrunners.
Oh, you can load like the Front Runners logo onto it as the thing that comes up.
Right, but
like,
also the URL address. I believe you can add front runners on a certain pay level. You can add front runners into the URL address. I've seen that on various companies. Anyway, something to look into.
I think, yeah, if you want to associate it with your URL, then that's easy. but mine still says at a basic level, it'll say Chris Richley is inviting you to a meeting.
Right.
Even though the title of the call is different, but that's coming through from my chris.richley@gmail.com. So
I was just going to mention, we had to get a Zoom subscription for our individual club board meetings for the last 2 years because we haven't been meeting. We meet monthly by Zoom. So we chalk it up to a club expense for Palm Springs front runners and walkers. And I use that same account to hold the regional rep meetings that I do quarterly for the US Western region. So I sort of double dip into my Palm Springs front runners and walkers Zoom account for my regional meetings. I don't know if that would be applicable to anyone else on the call, but I wouldn't need one for the US Western region because I'm co-opting my Palm Springs front runners one, which serves me fine.
And how much does that cost, Michael, just information wise?
I think it's, I want to say $149 a year or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what the US cost would be. The Australian cost is, of course, you pay a foreign tax, and then on top of that, you pay the conversion.
So if we were to subscribe to this, though, would multiple people be able to control it?
So I think the idea would be what we do with the social media accounts is that people like the reps would have the password for it.
Okay.
To be able to arrange meetings. And then what you'd see would be, so I suppose there might be potential collisions where reps want to have meetings at the same time. But for example, Buddy and I started talking about this, but he's just going to take it on the chin to do this one himself because it gives him the control he needs. So you'd see all of the meetings that were upcoming set up down here for future. I mean, the other thing we could consider is Teams, where we get free meetings for up to about 40 people. But Buddy thought, and I agree, that Teams is a bit of a shitty platform. It's still pretty bad. And I know that previously we had a couple of committee members who use Teams every day, but they're not here now. So I don't know what, we actually have a Teams presence, but nobody uses it. I think Richard was the only one that persisted with it, and I don't think anybody likes it. So Teams is free. Of course, there's a paid version of Teams as well, which gets you more stuff, like you'll be able to share the documents and collaborate on documents. But I don't see that people are pressing for it. So I'm still happy to leave it with this. I just thought, rather than the reps shouldering the financial burden, unlike Michael, your club pays for it. I've got a free account too, so it's no skin off my nose for like the AGM and this meeting. But is that something we want to do? Would other people find it useful?
I have a free Zoom account through work that it's a pretty robust one that I've shared with the regions also for the regional calls. So I'm fine with that, but I'm also fine if we want to buy one. It's not terribly expensive.
This is Randy. I would use that Zoom account if we had one.
Yep.
Yeah, and it seems like it's not too expensive. It seems like maybe it is something reasonable since facilitates really the groups having meetings, given the larger distances involved, and even apart from the whole pandemic stuff going on. As long as, and I think we can discuss it at the AGM for future ones, but I think if we wanted to do it sooner than later, we could probably cover it under club promotion as a way to promote clubs in the regions and stuff. So, which is a budget item.
Yeah,
so
I think
okay
the comms team, for example, meet, and so that would be handy for them.
Right, and maybe it should be controlled by the secretary. As I said, if someone wants to reserve a time slot for having a meeting for their region, just to eliminate conflicts, just to let the secretary know potentially.
That makes sense, and it's a great idea since Alan has rung off, so we could just add it as a note for him to do. So I guess if you're not here, you get the action. So why don't we do that? I'll give you the details, Alden, so that we can I'll work it through with people to register a Zoom account just for this year, and we can make Alan look after it if
and also just see what makes sense if it's a better if it's better financially to have someone from the US set it up or whatever, I'm not sure what the.
I'd say
Yeah.
it'd be better if you set it up, yes. Whether it works outside, I'm sure it'll work outside because everything else we've done, we'll be able to log in and administer from outside. So, you know, we've got our Gmail accounts, we've got our Twitter accounts, our Facebook, our everything else. Even with two-factor authentication, sometimes people have to ring me up and get the number. But yeah, it all seems to be working.
Well, as a nonprofit, you might want to check if there's a discount for nonprofits as well.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I think there's a non-profit version of Teams as well, which we didn't look into. We might actually get free Teams as well. I'm not sure. Good point.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. Okay, so we'll look into that a little bit more and let me know, Chris.
Okay. Martin, did you want to, I'm sorry, we're so over time. Martin's still there. Do you want to just, you had a question about whether we can pay for the website. Were you proposing to migrate it? I know that a lot of people have wanted to do something about the website and Brad said he's happy to keep going on it. But did you have a suggestion?
Well, I just kind of think in terms of the website that it would be nice if Brad, of course, could helm the process, but at least have some additional financial support. Like I'm happy even if Brad has to be paid to do it, but just it's a huge undertaking doing the website and just trying to make it a bit more appealing. I'm just looking at other international LGBT sports organizations who have very vibrant and very visually pleasing sites. So just kind of knowing that we're up against that, it would be nice to just throw some money in that direction to make sure that we are in par with that as well. I think it'd be fair also for our clubs to kind of see that, oh, this is actually a club that takes its image seriously.
Yeah, and I think this is no criticism on Brad's part. The features that Brad has built up over time on that website, every time we think about doing anything with it, we come up against that. How will we replicate all that functionality in another platform? And that's where it stalls because it seems effortless, but there's an awful lot. As somebody who's looked after Sydney Frontrunners website for about 5 years, I can tell you it's just every couple of days, there's another little thing that niggles at you from managing a website. So Brad, do you want to comment?
Well, no, and I would appreciate any design suggestions or anything. I'm better at doing, you know, the back end stuff, all of the database stuff, all of that type of work. So yeah, if people have suggestions, ideas, I'm more than willing to, you know, implement things.
So yeah, Martin, if you've got some design aptitude to freshen up is it WordPress? What's the platform?
I'm just, we can use WordPress if we want to. Currently it's just like raw PHP.
Old school.
Yeah.
So
I get a lot of control doing that. So
yeah, well, yeah, I think you get a lot of control when you're familiar with the platform. So
right.
Martin, if you want to advance some ideas, maybe tic-tac with Brad, and happy to talk another time about it, but it's something we've always wanted to do. It's just who's got the time. That's the thing. And paying is another thing, but who would manage the process even if it was paid? That's the problem.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely up for managing the process if we get the payments nailed up, and definitely up for liaisoning with Brad to update the website.
So I think what you've got to come to us with is a proposal of what, like a budget and how long it would take and what you're intending to do. And maybe we can talk about that if you want to chat with me about it, or and Brad, and we can talk at the next meeting about it.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I'll definitely get the budget and the proposal nailed down. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I mean, in the past, we've even talked about having our own app, for example, and I think it got stalled when the app developer went from wanting to charge us $26,000 to charge us $250,000 or something like that, and couldn't get their act together, and we didn't know quite what we were signing up for. So as long as we've got something concrete, we can talk about.
Yeah, that would be perfect. That would be perfect, Chris. And can I just mention something else at this point? And Richard, I don't know. I've heard very briefly that you might have been involved in a little bit of this, but basically, so one of the things I've been personally sort of getting involved when it came to my clubs is, so one of the questions that was asked at my original meeting is essentially communication, and essentially, so one of the things that was pointed out is that the clubs were using a platform where basically it was a free platform, but they've basically grown too big from from being able to use the platform because the club had too many members. So essentially what I suggested is I will look into an alternatives, and I came across a platform. So it's essentially an app that you would download on your phone, and it's specifically designed for LGBTQIA community, and it's called Rally. So coincidentally, I got involved with the founder, and I said, look, I've seen your platform and I think it has the potential, you know, to be something great, and I think we could utilize this. So I said, I spoke from the perspective of a regional rep, but I said, you know, we're an organization that has over 110 clubs around the world, and I think it would be great if we could basically have an app that would be easy to use and connect all the clubs within the region. So the person who basically, so the founder seemed quite keen on that, and we ended up talking more, and essentially the idea was he's going to take our suggestions on board. So at the moment, it's in a stage where I'm trying to see if as many of the Europe clubs as possible would use the app. And then if the app proves to be a success in terms of club management and connecting clubs within the region, what I would very much like to do is to have the app implemented across the whole front runners worldwide, and to just have everyone, if possible, to essentially use the same app. Now, it needs to be pointed out, it's not exclusive for just running, it's every LGBTQIA sport, you know, in the world, but it does seem exclusive enough for the purpose of us using it in a sense that we can connect the clubs around the region and streamline our conversations with the clubs as well as the organization as a whole. So
I know that Richard would like to talk about this at length, yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. My pet peeve, but I've spoken with Duncan at Raleigh, and Duncan wants to do this club by club initially. He doesn't want to bite off more than he can chew right away. And he wants to hone it. He wants to make it perfect before he offers it to us to offer to all the clubs. I did tell him there is some competition in that Hornet is rolling out something called Spaces. They had spoken to us about going worldwide with us, but they decided we had too many demands. So they are now actually approaching our clubs are being approached individually. Michael, I don't know if they've approached Palm Springs yet, but Christoph Wittig, San Francisco frontrunner, who's the CEO of Hornet, is actually approaching clubs. So I did tell Duncan there is a little bit of a competition happening. And at this moment, if you're going club by club, it could become problematic when half the world is on Hornet and half the world is on Rally. And if we want to try to combine everybody, it will be much more difficult. All right.
Look, I think too, when you're talking about a platform, whether it's Facebook, which is something that we, manage meetings and we manage events and things like that through, but also people do it through Strava and Les Run do it through Meetup. So any platform, you've got to be aware that they could fold overnight, or they could change their use policy and just exclude you. So having the website, I think we can never really leave that, because it is our fallback in case the platform fails us. And we've seen, you see.
Yeah, certainly, Chris, and we all agree on that. And I think our primary sort of go-to way of any advertisements and news distributions should still be the website first and foremost. It's just that, like you've emphasized, in terms of the social networks, you know, they can sort of crash overnight, and they aren't really, well, in my case, what I've noticed with a lot of my clubs is they're not really, I guess you could say, fit to purpose, in a sense of, like, what the clubs have told me is they're having more and more members that don't necessarily, you know, use social media or want to be affiliated with any types of social media, which is essentially being problematic for them, in a sense of, you know, especially in the last 2 or so years, so to speak, during COVID, they've all needed to adjust in a sense of having some sort of management as to who's coming to their activities, who's coming for their runs. And it was really difficult to do when, you know, whether to have like a Facebook membership group when there were a lot of members that don't use Facebook. So they've all had to like alternate in a sense of how do we record our members. So to have an app that's specifically, in this case, designed for the LGBT community, and that's really, its sole purpose is to basically record activities of the LGBT community. I think that that comes across a lot easier, and a lot more members might accept that, as opposed to just joining like a Facebook group or, you know, a Twitter page to sign up for the activities, basically.
Martin, I think given that we don't have the option to do a worldwide rollout yet for either Raleigh or Hornet, I think we can table the discussion, but I'm wondering when we come back to it, whether it should first go to the communications committee and they can examine the innards, the mechanics, and then offer a proposal. So I think for now, maybe just table it off of this, off of the steering committee, if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can I want to really pop on quick. I just want to, Golly, I want to, hi, Golly. Sorry, now, I know you've had this wonderful scintillating 2 hours.
Wonderful introduction.
Special effects and music and everything. You're new to this process. They're not usually this long. They're not usually this boring, I don't think. But I did want to ask you, you've been thrown into the deep end on regional stuff now. And I know you probably know you need to help get your region to renew their memberships, each club. A lot of times you have to kind of hit them on the head a few times to get them to do that. The other thing you might want to be looking at is doing regional outreach, regional conference calls, et cetera, et cetera. I'm wondering, what have you encountered so far in your time? Have you had a chance to talk to your clubs?
No, I didn't. I didn't do it right now, but I will do it. This is the first meeting that I heard a lot of my responsibilities. So yeah,
right.
I will
feel free to reach out to any of the regional reps. Everyone else here, rep-wise, has already gone through this. And you know, basically, your region is your fiefdom. Your region is your kingdom. You can make it yours. And it's just the only things I think that are important to the whole steering committee are the memberships and then some regional communications. Other than that, do whatever you'd like. Western region has a regional pride run circuit. Other regions have other road trips and things like that. So, you know, feel free to reach out for ideas, suggestions, assistance.
Yeah, and I actually had a call with Buddy to take him through all of the documents and the website and the various processes, Gally. So I might set something up with you in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
We can just go through, you know, how you get information about things, what other people do. Just take you through some of the things that like I've learned. And if anybody else wants to join, let me know. And we can.
Yeah, and by all means, Gali, if you have any questions, I'm quite happy to have a meeting with you as well, or a quick chat just to discuss anything you might need a hand with. So quite happy to do that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Martin.
And so just for your information, Martin is the Northern Europe rep. We have also Buddy is the Asia Pac rep, and Thomas is the other member of the comms committee, but it doesn't actually represent a region, but he just gets to sit in on all of these exciting meetings and listen to us drone on. So that's great. Hey, Thomas. Okay, I'm up to other business now, aside from reminding people, because it's already in the minutes, as I've been reminded, that we've got the AGM on at Neiman in the Eurogames at 26th of July. Does anybody have any other business?
As far as the AGM, I just wanted to comment. We probably should get information out about that fairly soon if we want to have good attendance. It always helps to publicize that early enough so people can plan. So it's just a note, just for us to get going on that.
So would that be something the regional reps could circulate to say with the Gay Games, the Euro Games link, and say we're intending to have it during the Euro Games, and further details later?
I think we need to
potentially.
Well, to start with, yeah, it could be a heads up, like hold the date kind of thing. But then I think we need to have more details as far as if we're going to have a Zoom call as well as a physical meeting and nail down the time, that kind of thing.
I think with all the uncertainty, we're definitely going to have a Zoom call as part of it.
Right.
We need to coordinate with the organizers of the Euro Games, and if Amsterdam is going to be involved with Euro Games, which I'm guessing they are, maybe coordinate with them. They are. Okay, so we'll need basically a room. Copenhagen gave us a nice room, and we basically supplied the refreshments, and that's what we need. We need a room with Wi-Fi. That's all.
Right, but it helps to have a local club to help with that process. So yeah, that Amsterdam would be the club.
So Martin, can you reach out to Amsterdam and find out whether we can get a room and a date, and some and good internet, not Spectrum internet, not.
Yes. I mean, I can promise on anything, on everything but good internet. Like, yeah, it is Scandinavia and Europe after all. But yeah, I'll try and do my best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business?
Yeah, so I'll make this quick, I promise. I had made a request, and I don't know whether this is a full steering committee request or it's specific to the treasurer. But I did make a request for $500 to help finance the Pride Circuit program that we do here in the US Western region. And what that is we incentivize clubs to run in Pride Run events for other clubs within the region. And if you run 3 Pride Run events over the course of a year, you get a award of some sort. Historically, they've been medals. This year, we're thinking about doing something other than a medal, but we want to restore the program. We haven't done it in the last 2 years. We want to restore it in 2022. When we've run it before, individual club members have laid out money to pay for the medals and the mailing of those medals out of their own pockets. Since really the goal of this is to promote camaraderie amongst the clubs within the region, I wanted to see if IFR could help with the financing of a program like this from the general funds, rather than relying on the kindness of a couple of members to finance it again. So that was my request.
So just for comments on that, in my view, it could fall under the club promotion. We had allocated in our budget a one-time $500 per region used for club promotion, which we've used a little bit, but we haven't used it for the Western US region. So that's one option. And I would say if we just have a discussion on the steering committee and see if that's to everyone's liking, if that's something that they'd like to do and use as a promotion item.
It certainly doesn't sound frivolous, so I'd support it. For $500, everybody happy?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I think carried.
Great.
So Michael, you talk to Alden.
I will. Thank you.
And it'd be nice if you've got quite a comprehensive program like that to maybe put a little bit together for the newsletter too, so that people can see what you've done, and then maybe other clubs will want to put the work in to do it as well. I'm sure it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
doing all the
absolutely.
organizing.
Yep, we do. We have to promote it pretty heavily for people to sort of grasp the concept. We have to do it early because you got to start before the first Pride run kicks off for the new year. So yeah, we have a lot of sort of promotional stuff that I can share with the steering committee.
Michael, did you miss Phoenix this year already, or did they not have it this year?
No, Phoenix has not happened. The only one that has come and gone is Las Vegas, but historically they haven't been part of the circuit, I don't think. But no, Phoenix, I think, is in 3 or 4 weeks from now.
I feel like they were added to the circuit last year, and I knew Phoenix is usually earliest, but right, okay.
Yep.
All right.
We were gonna do it with or without the IFR funding, so this only sort of helps. So we're gonna start promoting it any minute, any day now. But thank you.
You're welcome. Any other business? Okay, we're fiercely over time, so shall we put it there? When will we have our next meeting?
As one quick thing, Chris, that I just, it's something I mentioned at the last steering committee, and that was just whether we wanted to have the steering committee bios accessible to the full membership as opposed to just the steering committee. You know, not all the information that's on there as far as contact, but the bio section. So I just wondered if people had thought more about that, and if there's any thoughts on that, just as far as getting us better known to the population, the larger population of IFR.
I think we said at the AGM, everybody go and update your bios, because I know mine's out of date.
Have a look at it and see if it's something something you feel like you want to have it accessible and that kind of thing. Exactly.
Yeah, I think mine's quite out of date. So if everyone can update their bios, that should be under your control from the steering committee website. And then where would you see that being circulated? How would we do that? You want it on the page on the website or something?
Just as part of the general access website. So I don't know if Brad can speak to that, if that's a complicated issue. I think I'd asked him that once before. I'm not sure if he had researched that.
No, it'll be easy to do. We can just link it to, because we do have a list of all the steering committee members. So right there, we can just,
just adding a column with that link.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So here, for example, Western region. Oh, we can have a look at, here we are. And there you've got that, no picture, but probably we maybe want to add a picture as well, or link through to a document or something like that, but it's pretty bare bones because I think it's just a text box, isn't it?
Right now, yes.
So anyway, the first thing is to update your bio, please, everyone. And maybe we can talk about it in comms as well, about how we want to surface that. Okay, so next meeting date. When do we want to meet again?
Do we need something prior to the AGM?
Yeah, so do we want to meet before Easter? Are we going to, so we set the date for the AGM as the 26th of July, right?
So we can meet in May.
26th, 30th, yeah.
30th, yep. And
somewhere
do we want to meet after we've published the newsletter? So the first week of May?
Mm-hmm. Or sometime in May, yeah.
Okay, so
Somewhere there sounds good.
we will aim maybe, Alan, if we could aim for the first weekend or the second weekend of May and send out the usual doodle, and people can say what their availability is like for those weekend dates. Is this time working okay for everyone? I know we're going to have some daylight savings changes very soon too, so I don't know what's going to be different. I think sometimes we have to move to nighttime meetings or whatever because the time zones shift around. Okay, no objection. All right, so we'll see the first or second weekend of May for the next meeting. All right, thanks everybody. I'll send the link for the recording out, or Alan will send the link for the recording out, and we'll get the minutes and everything together for you.
Yep, and just a note, I did send out that form to everyone just a few minutes ago. So the one that I talked about for the invoice and the budget for 2022. So people should be receiving. Okay, thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Have a good
Bye.
rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.